Welcome to Merrick's Dabbling Path.
So yes, Joachim, what's up? How's it going?
All good, yeah. How's it going with you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just a weekend. You work Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday.
Actually, Monday to Friday, but it's
Yeah.
almost like Monday to Saturday because I'm working more than like 17 hours a day, sort.
What? During Monday to Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So what time do you start and what time do you finish?
So technically, on paper, I start like at 8, but I actually start at 6 in the morning.
Wow.
I do a couple of reports from 6 to 7, 7:30.
Yep.
Then kind of leave to office, reach there by around quarter to 8 or so, and then leave office by around 5 5ish, and then
Okay.
start a couple of reports in the evening too.
Oh wow. So then you're working from home after you before you go to work and when you come back.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what field is this now you are working in?
So I work with Axis Capital.
Yeah.
So Axis Capital is like a subsidiary of Axis Bank, and it kind of deals with institutional equities and investment banking, etc. So kind of straddling between both of that.
So you're like an investment banker then? Sort of?
No, I'm not on the. Yeah, kind of like
Yeah.
on the. Yeah, somewhere on those lines. I mean, I'm progressing towards it, but around that.
Enjoying the work though?
Yeah. I mean, works
Okay.
kick ass. I mean, we are doing a lot of. The thing is, my stuff is more on the quantitative side, and number crunching and giving them some output on data, etc. So
Right.
yeah.
And you're using any advanced softwares with this or just like
So not as yet, but I've started to figure out my way through Python.
okay.
Just some simple stuff into how to extract some data from the exchanges, etc., and do some models on that, etc.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So
But it's still very very novice.
yeah, and so basically you know a little bit of coding in Python?
A kind of, you can say, because
That's
I
good.
mean mostly I kind of go through the websites and scan some codes and just replicate it.
Yeah, that's one way of getting it done. Like just like getting some
Yeah.
cause there's like lots of free resources like with Python and Java and
Correct.
stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's good. Yeah. Wow. And how you've been doing this? I think before I left for Australia as well, right? But I think you were at a different firm then. If I,
Yeah, so before I was with Edelweiss,
Yeah.
more into wealth research, which is like, right now I'm sorry, right now I'm more on the institutional side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a call.
Yeah. I figured.
Forget.
On the institutional side, what does that mean? Like,
So right now we are kind of servicing clients that are more institutional in nature. Like previously in Edelweiss there was just individual investors, etc.
Understood now.
These
Yeah.
are yeah,
Yeah.
these are like institutions, and we have to kind of cater to them. Mostly FIIs that is your foreign investors.
Right.
So probably
Foreign institutional
so
investors.
some of these. Yeah.
Okay. And from a for what do they look at? Like they are looking at new companies to invest in, like growing companies or like existing ones, like blue chip companies or like startups, or where these are
So
foreign?
so mostly, I mean, their exposure kind of is concentrated towards large caps, but they are also interested in new stories and
Yeah.
like especially these new age companies which are coming up. Like we've got like a good traction in that,
Okay.
especially like something like a Zomato or yeah.
Right. Well, it must be this other, the hospitality, not hospitality, but the in the travel and tourism. What's that one? Where Oyo rooms and stuff like that as well. That's an upcoming one.
Yeah, but Oyo is not yet out, right? I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it is. It will be out soon. So, but
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I don't have any stats on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's good traction coming in these kind of companies right now because that's where the overall liquidity is kind of flowing towards.
Yeah, I heard of another company that's recently started. Some boys in Bangalore, I think. It's called Dukan. Have you heard of it? They call
No,
themselves
not really.
Dukan.
Probably
Yeah.
it's like a private investor, I guess, right?
I think it's just a startup, but like they are getting, they were like, from what I read last, I think they were meant to get some good funding. What they are doing is basically, like, you know how we have like these small stores around Bombay and stuff like that, or wherever around, like in India, like there are like more smaller shops, like convenience stores. And due to the pandemic, all of these businesses would have been affected if people are locked down, locked in, and stuff like that. So what they are doing is like building a
Correct.
platform for these stores to have their own online store. So like your local convenience
Okay.
store can have like an online store, like to cater to their local crowd, like what they are usually catering to, but through an online platform. Yeah, giving them an
Okay.
online
Okay.
space. Yeah, I think that's like a good venture. But yeah, I'm not sure like whether it is still come on your under your radar. So,
No, not yet. The thing is, my radar is when it hits the
market.
exchange, and
Yeah.
then when things starts kicking in, yeah, then I kind of come in. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really look at the early startup phase. I mean,
Yeah.
my thing is probably when it starts coming on the exchange.
And you work in a team, or it's like, or how does it like?
Y- Yeah, so the thing is, I mean, mine is like kind of a separate desk, but I'm a part of the sales trading in you know uh, institutional equities. So
Right.
my team is actually institutional equities,
Yeah.
but like yeah, I mean, we do some amount of structuring, and if there is some dope need to be given on some stock, etc. We push that to clients.
Yep.
We also give out a lot of trading ideas and what to buy, sell, etc.
Interesting.
So
And
all that kind of covers yeah.
yeah, and you, I mean, do you have to speak to clients directly, or you
Yeah,
just
I also do that.
okay?
But it's more, I mean, it's like say around 30% of the time.
Okay.
The 70 to 80% of the time is more of analysis and getting some stuff
Yeah.
out, like especially on the content side,
Right.
because that's how you kind of speak to clients. And sales traders need to have very high quality content to kind of speak to clients and push ideas, and that's where I kind of come in. So
So the like there are, I'm guessing there would be sales representatives to do most of the selling part of it, right? Like, and you are just doing the analysis.
correct,
Yeah.
correct, correct, correct. But that's I mean, my analysis is more on the trading side. We also have a separate research team who
Okay.
they have like their sectors and respective sectors and stocks that they look at, and they go into a more fundamental depth in that, and they kind of give some dope on that. But mine is more trading related, more short term related, more on market analytics point of view, like.
And in terms of short term, how short? Like is it day trading or like few months or?
No. So for institutional investors, short term would be anything like around 15 days or so.
Okay.
And I mean that's the target period that they keep, with some target returns of say 5 to 8%, etc., on these
Right.
blue chip stocks.
On blue chip
So
stock, they want
so
like
I mean
5 to 8% per annum, or 5 to 8% in that window of 15 days.
yeah, I mean in that window of
Wow.
15 to 1 month actually.
Yeah.
But I mean it's not a standard kind of a thing. I
Yep.
mean obviously there are different kind of investors with
Understood.
different risk appetite, and this is
Yeah.
like you can say the guys who are like hedge funds, and who are very active in trading, that's their requirement, like.
And like from a legal perspective, you're not allowed to trade, right?
Yeah, so I don't trade. I mean because of the compliances, but
Yeah.
I am allowed to buy stocks for
Longer term.
investing, and that too. Yeah, for longer term, but that too with the permission of the compliance. Because if there is anything happening with the stock internally, like any deals going through, etc., I can't buy those stocks. So
Yeah.
those are out of our list, and we can't invest in that.
Right. Oh, yeah. And then you've been doing anything lately with music or no?
No, man. So as I told you, like work's
17
been
hours.
quite hectic,
Yeah.
because the thing is, I've just joined Axis Capital. Before that, I was with Centrum Capital.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
so I've just joined Axis Capital, and before that I was Centrum. So recently, like the workflow has been huge, in terms of all these stocks coming back up to all-time high, and India has been a very strong outperformer compared to global markets in this whole rally since Jan onwards. And that's how we are getting a lot of foreign traction coming back to India, and so there's a lot of flow coming to India from that perspective. So yeah, I mean it's been quite hectic since then. So
the recent crash in China has affected the markets, like a positive or negative effect. So there was a recent.
so the thing is, I mean, yeah, so with Evergrande, the thing is that India was always an alternative um to China in terms of investing, because if you go to see the whole emerging market basket, as per market cap, China is obviously number one, and then is India directly. So if flows stop going to China, I mean the next go to investment is obviously India. So I see that kind of effect playing out right now, and that's why you can see the resilience of Indian markets not correcting. So if I could give you some stats, the Indian market has not corrected greater than 10% for the last 350 or 360 days approximately. So that's like the longest streak that the Indian markets, one of the longest streaks that Indian markets have given without any sort of a drawdown. But the fact is, most of the retail investors are waiting for for a drawdown or a correction, but that's not going to happen, because they are going to wait, and they're going to
Right.
wait. But markets, like
Markets
all
keep-
like all bull markets, markets will keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it's playing out actually. So
Oh, that's good. I mean, good from some other investors' perspective, and not someone who's trying to get in.
correct.
Yeah. Have you? I mean, obviously you've been like really busy and stuff, but have you been looking into crypto as well?
I haven't got the time though, but I do track just Bitcoin, because
Okay.
I mean, Bitcoin is also important from our angle, because it's one of the leading indicators of a risk-on scenario. So yeah, I mean, global investors kind of look at two things when our market's going risk-on and when our market's going risk-off. So when things start correcting, that means a risk-off environment has started to build, and I mean then investors kind of push their exposure towards something like a dollar index or something like gold, etc., that
Right.
would kind of help them hedge their gains.
Right.
Bitcoin is like an important investment in that terms, as you can say that it's the most riskiest asset right now, in terms of risk classification. And when that starts to turn, you can say that the risk on environment is starting to fade out, and investors are starting to come out of the asset class and shift uh, their exposure to something like a risk off like gold or dollar index, etc. So from that perspective, it's an important investment to track and put your eyes on, like
Yep.
it'll give you a better perspective of how things are panning out.
Just if you can elaborate on risk on and risk off, like give an example of like how what that is exactly.
Yeah, so risk on is basically when everyone is aggressive and everyone's in like you can say going into the most riskiest assets. Like equity is one of the riskiest ones, but right now we have altcoins that have come up, and
Right.
they are termed as the most riskiest ones. So when the environment goes into a risk on, you see performance coming into these asset classes like small cap stocks, mid cap stocks. Bitcoin does well. Commodities do really good in that terms, especially something like a steel or metals, which are highly cyclical in nature. Like they only run on these huge commodity cycles, and when and obviously they are very high beta also. So if the index gives you say around about 10%, these stocks or these asset classes gives you a double or triple the amount of returns the an index gives. So that's how you classify asset classes in terms of risk on and low beta or risk off. So something like an FMCG or pharma, like these sectors kind of come under the risk off
Risk
basket. Yeah. So it's very important to know where we are right now, because and also important to know if the risk on environment is kind of getting overstretched, and then you can kind of swap your positions or your exposure and probably hedge some returns.
Are you aware that a South American country, El Salvador, has made Bitcoin legal tender over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
now-
it's kind of I mean in some part of the world it's kind of getting some traction, and
Yep.
obviously if you've heard of China just putting curbs on Bitcoin again,
Right.
and saying that they are redundant, it's kind of just balancing that whole thing out. So I'm not really sure what my view on Bitcoin is right now. Probably it can come back to say like the previous lows of I guess approx 30 or 28,000, around those
Okay.
levels.
Yeah.
28. Yeah, so I'm not sure about that, but it could kind of come there and consolidate and probably just stagnate over there. But on the overall long term view, I do believe in the story of Bitcoin. I think that's that will be the next way forward, or the alternative to banks, or payments of whatever. So I do believe in that story though, and I'm pretty sure you're also of that view.
Right. Yeah. I've been like actually been investing in crypto for the last year and a half. So I've been like solely, probably you can say, like in terms of investments, you can say all my eggs are in one basket, which is not a good thing. But within crypto itself, like they are spread out into different baskets. But it's all in crypto.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. I mean, not
So which kind of cryptos are you? I mean, do you do like Ethereum and
Right.
the other ones, or is it just
so the big names are obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum. So and any coins other than Bitcoin are called altcoins. So Bitcoin being like the first cryptocurrency, and then anything
Correct.
other than Bitcoin is known as altcoins, and then the second most famous one is Ethereum. And So Ethereum is so how I generally, if I put it in basic terms, like Ethereum is a platform on which different apps can be built on. Just say like you have an iOS for you have the iOS platform, the software that apps can be built on for an iPhone. So Ethereum is a platform where different crypto-based apps can be built on. So I'm looking at so there are like there's Ethereum, and then there are other platforms similar to Ethereum where apps can be built on. So there's another one called Polkadot and Cardano. And Cardano used to be down like I
Okay.
think in the top 10 coins, but it's grown its way up to the top 3 now. So yeah, I've been invested in Cardano for a year now. Ethereum is another one. Then there's like apps in the sense, so there's Theta Network. So those guys are building a decentralized YouTube, you could say. So one of the founders of YouTube is on that project, and they're building a decentralized YouTube.
Okay.
So censorship, like lots of YouTubers could say, are getting censored on YouTube, but on a decentralized network,
Oh.
so on a decentralized network, there's no one like really controlling it, right? So like censorship won't be an issue,
Correct.
other than the audience itself would start flagging it. There's no authority to be
Wow.
yeah. So there's
Wow.
Theta.
So
Theta's-
that I mean
yeah.
that opens up to, you know, I mean, with YouTube, it obviously opens up the you know, for upcoming artists that kind of, you know, want to do a lot of covers, etc., and can't put
Exactly.
their videos up because of these rights or licenses, etc. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, good way to disrupt that point.
Yeah, so
Correct.
in terms of growth, Theta has grown, I think, in the last year. To put a rough figure on it, at least 30%. You could not 30. So it has grown. You could say close to 150%, maybe more, maybe 250%. I'm not sure. Yeah, you could say it's like 2x or 3x.
Okay.
So that's the thing with crypto. Like, you know, like if you're for me, like I see like a equity or something, depending on how, like, if just as an investment and not trading, you're lucky if something grows 50 to 100%. Like, you're really lucky if something is
Yeah,
growing.
definitely.
Yeah, as an
Exactly.
investment. But I think in crypto it's not so hard to find a coin that would like easily grow 50 to 100%. Like, it's like most of them are growing at that rate.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been investing in. Then there's another project called Singularity. They are building artificial intelligence based on the decentralized platform as well. So yeah, that one has grown also 300 to 400%. I had invested a bit early in
Wow.
that as well. No, I mean, not really early, but not too late as well. So yeah, but in the last 2 years they've grown around that much. And then there's few other ones that have been coming up. There was a recent one that came up. The token is called OM, as in OM. They're called Mantra DAO. Yeah, that's another one. And then there's a whole different market,
Okay.
which is even crazier and wild. You must have heard of it, the NFT space.
NFTs.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like
wow.
yeah, that's another wild space. But like NFT
So,
space,
so
have been
I mean,
growing.
I'm more interested.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing, like, you know, what really makes these digital arts, you know, kick. I mean, what's the whole logic behind it? I mean, how do you create this, and
Right.
you know, how do you kind of pitch it, or how do you sell it out?
Right, yeah. So I can say like I've only recently started to dive into the NFT space, but some of the projects have, like, you would have seen some news, but some of them have grown like 4,000% and like 10,000 and 20,000 even.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but how do they get value? I think it's more based on the community that is formed around it, and I'm not really sure how. I know how, like, what is the, like, how it works. So basically, there would be a project that's launching, like they would announce a project that would be launching. So there's this Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is like one of the most famous ones now. One of the most recent famous ones, like a single. So they would announce like they are like there are these ape characters that have been made into art, and
Correct.
and there's
Correct.
like a
I've
limit
saw-
of
I've
10,
seen that.
yeah, and there's a limit of 10,000, like, so they're going to say like, oh, we are going to there are only going to be 10,000 apes, and so that's like a limit on like how many. They are never going to be more than 10,000 apes. Okay, so there's going to be only 10,000 apes,
Okay.
and then they've formed a community, and then they'll have a roadmap of like how this is going to be. Like they're going to be like using these avatars into games, and you can use it as your like, I don't know, like you can use it as your own
Wow.
avatar, and
Wow.
like they're like, there's a roadmap that is drawn, but also like on the side of this is like they're like, okay, a certain amount of the revenue is going to go towards a cause. Like there's like another one which is built around, like it's similar to Bored Ape, but these are, instead of the apes, there are like French bulldogs. So they are,
Okay.
yeah, so yeah,
Wow.
so that project is going to be funding like rescue dogs around the world, like felding these
Wow. So,
yeah.
so all this valuation has like a strong cause behind it, and where the money is flowing to. So
Yeah, but
that's a really good insight that you've given me.
yeah, but there's
But I
lots of
mean, the valuations are like berserk. I mean, why are they so like valued so high compared to all the other
forms of
say, I don't know, Bitcoin, yeah, forms of assets.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how they started getting value. I know NFTs was introduced like way back in, I think, 2014. Then there was like a early project in 2017 called CryptoPunks, and then now it's really kicked off. But it's still a very, I mean, so it's all, most of the NFTs are run on the Ethereum platform, but just to transact, so just for me purchasing an NFT, other than the cost of the NFT, I also have to pay gas fees. So like the gas fees are the Ethereum gas fees of creating the transaction of where the particular art which is registered on the blockchain is going to be transferred from person X to me, and there's like that transaction fee,
Okay.
and the transaction fee itself is like
And
expensive, like it's like 100
and who does that
USD.
transaction fee? Yeah, who does it credit to?
It credits to the Ethereum network. From
The
my
network.
understanding,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but so because of that, like there's so most of the NFTs are built on the Ethereum network. But then, as I said, like other than Ethereum, there are these other platforms where apps can be built, and similarly now NFTs are built on. So there's a project called Solana. So NFTs are being built on that.
Solana, yeah.
Yeah, there's
I
another
was
one.
just going to ask you about that because that has like really got good traction. I mean, lately, I mean, there are a lot
Yeah.
of Indians speaking about it.
Okay.
I don't know for what reason because I've not paid heed to it.
Yep.
But if you could just explain me what that is.
I'm not really familiar with Solana as well. I probably late to the party on Solana. I'm not invested in that before, but I think Solana is a similar project like Ethereum, where apps can be built on it. I'm not sure why it's gotten hyped recently, but also what happened recently is like, I think it was one of the first cryptocurrencies, or not the first, but like one of the top cryptocurrencies to have like a crash. So there was like, I think this happened a few
Oh.
weeks ago, where it crashed for about a day or two, which is like, which doesn't happen in this space actually. But yeah, I'm not sure how that went about. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, similarly, like there've been NFTs on Cardano, and actually NFTs in the Cardano space are really cheap, and there's no gas fees associated with it, so that's like a good space to look at. But yeah, I've also,
So
yeah,
according to you, I mean,
yeah.
which are the like like you could say like your best topics on the crypto altcoins mainly
Yep.
that should kind of do well going ahead.
I think, as I said, Cardano is a good pick. Uh, there's Theta, which I spoke about. Then there was the one based on artificial intelligence that's called Singularity. There's another one. There's another good one called Zilliqa, and Zilliqa has their own NFTs as well. And another good thing about like some of these current cryptos is, so you have staking. You know what staking is?
No.
Okay, so staking is very similar to what we call depositing money or investing, or like depositing it in a fixed not, it's not a fixed term, but basically depositing it. So you can so it's called staking in crypto. So you're going to stake all your Zilliqa. You can stake it in a pool, okay, and there are different pools. So like I'll say I'm going to build some platform I'm building. Okay, say I'm building a platform to help rescue dogs. I couldn't think of another example. Okay, say I'm building a platform
Okay.
to help rescue dogs, and I'll say like, okay, I'll announce like, okay, you can everyone can stake Zilliqa in my pool, and I'm going to use, or other than helping rescue dogs, say I'll have a real world project where I'm going to have revenue from that. So like rescue dogs is like more like a charitable thing, but say I'm going to have like a real world project.
Correct.
I'm going to build the latest smartphone. Like it's going to be like, it's going to take Apple or Samsung by storm, but for that I need funding. So what I'll do is, okay, I'll say like,
Correct.
all of you, like I'll open a pool. It's called a pool, like it's more like a deposit fund. So everyone can put in like
Correct.
I can keep it like everyone has to put in 10 Zilliqa or 100 Zilliqa for that matter, or I can keep it open. Everyone can put in whatever they want, and I'll pay you guys 10% or 13% or something like that per
Correct.
annum. Yeah. So that's staking, and there
So
are,
that's
yeah,
so that's fixed from your side, right?
that's fixed
So
for
so
my
you're
side.
giving them 10%.
Right.
Yeah. So you're giving them 10% in return. You would be getting the price return on Zilliqa, or how much ever
Ba-
up it goes or
basically
down it goes, whatever.
so basically no. So basically, the deposit is still belongs to you, right? It's like similar to depositing in the bank. I'm not taking it from you. It's your money still.
Okay.
I'm using it for my project. Okay, I'm paying you the interest,
Okay.
and and
Okay.
you're allowed to withdraw it whenever you want as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah.
I
it's-
mean, quite a good deal, though.
yeah, it's a very good deal. So
Because so basically, I will be getting the price return on Zilliqa and
Right.
the 10% from you.
right.
Wow, and that 10% will all I mean, obviously be on the current price of Zilliqa, right?
Yeah, so it's all designed on the network. So it's all, and I think it gets calculated, if I'm not mistaken, it's calculated on a daily return basis, and also it's not paid out.
Correct.
It's not paid out like quarterly or half yearly. It's paid out in some cases. It's paid out
Correct.
weekly as well. So you can have compounding every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And-
That's really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the same thing happens in the investment side,
Yep.
but it doesn't happen. I mean, you don't get to participate in the price return. So, for example, I have Reliance as a stock, okay, and you are a borrower, or so this is another market. It's called the securities lending and borrowing market. So what happens is, basically, if you want Reliance, so you kind of buy Reliance from me. Okay.
Okay.
So what do I get? I get a fixed return. So fixed return would be an annualized return on the shares. Okay, so say for example 3 or 4% for that period. So I get the 3%, and the guy takes the shares, and then he gets the price appreciation. Now in your case, what happens is that I lend my Zilliqa to you.
Yep.
You give me 10%. But I also get the price appreciation, so that's like a win-win for me actually.
And to be honest, Zilliqa, the Zilliqa pools have been paying for the last year. They've been paying 15% and like 13 to 15%. So not 10%. If they've been paying
Wow.
13 to 15%, and they've been paying this every, I think, fortnightly. So you're compounding fortnightly.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a massive gains.
and it's like, and it's totally up to you. You can like withdraw it whenever you want. But in this
Okay.
case, what happens? It gets locked. It's locked in the pool, and then you withdraw it, and then it comes to you. So there's like a bit of a lag. but there are also other pools, like say like the Cardano platform. So you can just buy Cardano, and cryptos are like you buy it on a platform, but it's like risky to leave it on the platform. You transfer it to a wallet. Have you heard of all of this?
Correct.
Are you familiar?
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
I'm not really familiar with the whole wallet, because I've personally not invested in crypto.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm not really sure how how it'll pan out in India, and I mean, I don't actually have any clarity on that.
Right.
So I'm kind of refrained from getting into it. But I mean, obviously, I want to try out new investments.
Right.
And all coins is definitely another way. But if there is any way that I could kind of make my way through this whole thing, that you can explain to me,
Sure.
like if I want to kind of
Yep.
build a wallet or whatever it is.
Right. So I feel personally, I feel like I don't see India like putting a plug on it again. They did try to do it, like I think twice before, where they're gonna try like stopping people from investing. I don't think they're gonna make a third attempt. There's quite a few exchanges that have been growing in India, and yeah, there's and from the little bit of that I see on YouTube, there's like quite a bit of these influencers or the YouTube bloggers that have been all promoting crypto quite a bit in India as well. So but what people don't understand in crypto, what I feel is that it's not just you log on to an exchange and you buy some crypto and you leave it on the exchange. In terms of crypto, is like there goes a saying in crypto, like if it's not, like if you don't own the keys, it's not your currency. Basically, you need to be the holder of your keys.
Correct.
Right. So the keys here are basically of where your crypto is held. So when you buy crypto on an exchange and you leave it on an exchange, so the keys are held with the exchange and it's not yours. It's on books, on their books it's probably it is yours, but if they get hacked and then you could lose it, and I don't think there's any way of suing them and like getting a return from them. So what you have to do in this case in terms of crypto is you buy it on an exchange, because it's fairly easy like to buy it on an Indian exchange. So you could use INR to purchase the currency, and you don't need to go to like international exchanges where you have a currency conversion and you're going to be losing out on that bit as well, and like, or you probably gaining on that bit, but you don't want to be going through a currency fluctuation thing. So you buy it through an Indian exchange, and once you have it in your exchange account, you want to transfer it to a wallet. Now transferring it to a wallet, obviously like every time you're going to be transferring it from one place, these exchanges do charge you a small percentage of transferring it to the wallet as well. But once you transfer it to your wallet, it's more secure, and like it's like you own the keys. And there have been like traditional, like really good wallets that have been like they're updating their firmware every week, every 2 weeks, so that like it's not going to be hacked so easily. And and most of them are like on a decentralized network, so it's like really hard to hack into these, and they are called as soft wallets, or so these wallets still exist on the internet, and but it's still hard to get into them. And once you're holding them in the wallet itself, these wallets have the staking option. So through these wallets itself, you can stake with a certain pool. You can stake Zilliqa, you can stake Cardano. Most of the coins you're able to stake, and then you have your returns based on the pool. Other than soft wallets, there are also hard wallets. So these ones are going to be like you're going to get your keys, like these are like pen drive like devices. So you're going to store your keys on a pen drive like device, and then it's going to be like in they call it cold storage. It's going to be off the internet. Nobody can ever hack it. You lose the device, you're going to lose all of it. So that's the other risk of having like a cold storage, because if you're going to lose the device, you're possibly losing your whole investment. But that's the thing with crypto. It's like you're securing your own investment. It's like there's no banks, there's no financial institution that's going to be associated with it. You're taking the risk on your part there. But yeah, it's
Correct.
a really interesting space, and like with the knowledge you have and your ability to read charts and to do all these calculations and stuff, I think you should really look into it. Probably make some time. I could suggest some spaces where you can get some research papers and all of that. Yeah, or just
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I would kind of want to, uh,
yeah.
I mean, dive into it, but I mean, a lot of things on my plate right now. But definitely, whenever I get the chance, I would really look at altcoins, especially I'm interested in because,
Right.
I mean, as you said, the kind of returns you kind of get, it's like, 50 times is like normal to them. So,
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
that's the kind of returns we all chase for our retirement. But yeah, I
True.
mean,
Yeah. I
if you
mean,
get that in within a week or a month, it's like wow.
yeah, and like it's not. Yeah, I don't see. It's like it's not hard. Like I'll be honest. Like I've seen those returns in the last year. Uh, even with the market being
The
like
other
on the
thing,
low side. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, the other thing an investor would kind of always want to know is, what's the risk associated with this whole, crypto or alt or whatever. What's the biggest risk as per you? Like, what could kind of blow up this whole market? Because that's like the worst case scenario.
Right. I think the biggest risk would be regulation, something that's happening in China now, like where there's regulation that's stopping the
Correct.
people from this thing. So there's something similar happening in the US where regulation would like really put a roadblock onto it. But from the looks of it, like if you get onto Twitter and you follow like the big names and the big guys in the crypto space and stuff like that, no one is really bothered about the regulations as well. Like there's no, I mean, especially in terms of Bitcoin, like there's like all these other coins where there is a company or where there is like a founder and stuff like that. But in terms of Bitcoin, there's no founder, there's no company, no one knows who created Bitcoin, and so there's no way of stopping it all that easily. And in terms of all the other cryptos as well, they all build, like crypto is built on a decentralized network, so it's not like they're going to shut this building down or and the whole network is going to stop. That's not the
Correct.
case. Yeah,
Correct.
because it's the network is spread all over the world. So yeah, in terms of that, I think regulation is one hiccup. Yeah, that would like cause. Yeah, other than that, I don't see anything stopping this. And I don't know if you're familiar, but recently, I think this was just few days ago, uh, Twitter partnered with this company called Stripe, and it's for now it's just on iPhones I think it's just on iPhones. But what they've done is, through Twitter itself, you're able to transfer money to whoever, like through your Twitter account. You're able to transfer money to another person's Twitter account, and it's all done instantly
Wow.
and no transfer fees. So what the founder of Stripe and like who developed this software is like, uh, why would like companies, like say a big company, he gave an example of like why a big company like in the US there's Costco, or say Amazon, for example. Like yeah, we all familiar with Amazon. So say Amazon is like having customers who are using Visa cards and MasterCards to make payments online. Behind the scenes, like Visa and Master is still charging Amazon like 2% or 3% or something like that. Why would Amazon want to pay that 2% or 3% when they can literally have it for free through the Lightning
Exactly.
network?
Yeah.
So that's what this guy is working towards. And yeah, I think that's going to be coming around by the end of this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's like disrupting that whole
Yeah, he's like
payments
payment.
part of it.
Yeah, the payment side is like totally going to get transformed. And there
Yeah.
are like several applications of the blockchain technology. I was lucky to study about it in my degree, in my master's degree here in Australia. I was lucky to like be introduced to it through that, and that's how I really got into it. So like are you familiar with how blockchain works?
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
But
So-
but yeah, I mean, you could always give me your interpretation.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's always good to have a good point.
So I'll try to like break it down to like something simple. So there could be like closed network blockchains and open network blockchains, but in terms of blockchains, like each transaction, like there's for each transaction there's a new block that's created, and each block has like information of the previous block. And what sort of information is recorded on the block is totally dependent on the blockchain. But say for example Bitcoin, the common things that are recorded on a Bitcoin block is, okay, like who owns like all the Bitcoin is recorded, like all the previous owners like is there on the block, the date, the transaction, there's a timestamp basically, there are like three main things. I can't remember. It's like the timestamp, the owners, and there's another one, but I can't remember that one. But what it does is like, so for each transaction there's a new block that is created, and they are all linked together. So that's why the term blockchain, like it's all chained together. But all of this is not recorded on a single not recorded on a single centralized computer or a single centralized ledger. Say for example in banks, it's all recorded only like in a particular bank's ledger. But in terms of Bitcoin, it's recorded on everyone's ledger. Like everyone who owns even the slightest amount of Bitcoin, say $10 of Bitcoin, are owners of the ledger as well. So everyone can verify the last transaction. So for a hacker to come in and hack something like a Bitcoin, it's close to impossible for someone to hack it, because they would have to make a change on all these ledgers, which is like, it just can't be done. And each new transaction would amount to a new block created on the blockchain. So it can always be verified by looking at the previous block. So even if he hacks the latest block and it doesn't match to the previous block, it won't be put on the chain. So it's like far away from being hacked. And that's what and the applications and the real world applications of this is, so say for example it's like pretty big in supply chain, like of how I mean traditionally like things are supplied based on trust or what we call letter of credits or bank guarantees and stuff like that, right? But all of that can be moved. All of this can be moved to a thing on the blockchains is called smart contracts. Smart contracts are basically really similar to letter of credits and bank guarantees in a way, but they're not actually similar, because they are all designed on the network, and they are all designed on you could say how do you say, I can't remember the exact term for it, but like the if clause. So if Jokim's company in India sends something to the shipping company, then this will happen. So if this happens, then that will happen. If this happens, then that will happen, and it goes on in the network, right? And that way, and being on a decentralized ledger, nobody is able to hack it, and all the people who are part of that network is able to verify that information. So say for a supermarket, like if there's something coming from a farm and it's all on the network, so you're able to trace back, like say it comes to the shelves, it goes to the customer. A customer would be able to trace back from where exactly this product is originating. He would have all that information, and he will be able to see, the potential would be that he would be able to see, when was this farmed, when was it stored, how long was it in the transportation process, was it again stored at the distribution center, and then it was transported again from the distribution center to the store, and then I purchased it. So he would be able to look at the whole history of like a certain product. And in terms of like say for example milk, if milk is coming through and the say here we have big stores, like how do you say it, like big supermarkets. They realize there's like a batch of milk that could have been like tampered with. So they are able to, so what would happen traditionally is there's a batch of milk that's tampered with. We don't know where this batch of milk has gone. Let's call off milk from all the stores. So that's the traditional approach. We're going to call off all of it. But with with blockchain and with using barcodes and stuff like that, they would be able to track exactly where was the fault and just isolate that particular thing and probably eliminate it that way, reducing cost and stuff like that.
Wow, so it's gonna bring in like massive efficiency, you're saying?
Yes, yes. There are some videos from IBM of how the like people have been using it in the real world as well, in terms of like fashion brands and like in terms of sustainability of using like locally produced cotton and stuff, and like how these brands were able to identify producers within the same country, or like or sometimes like identifying this producers like overseas, and like how they're able to link it to the blockchain and stuff like that.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of it's kind of surprising as to what amount of efficiency this can create. Like I mean, it can always make it things can be so perfect. Like I mean, and a lot of cost and a lot of extra work can be like put off with such kind of technology.
Exactly.
I'm quite excited to see what this brings to the table going forward.
So basically, what's being said is that like, are you familiar with like how adoption of an early product is like a life cycle? So you'd say like a product goes from early adopters to I think it goes from early adopters to innovators to late adopters, and then like finally like mass adoption, and then to late adopters. You can say this is
Correct.
just in the early
Correct.
adoption phase. Oh, I think it's like innovators and then early
Wow.
adopters. Yeah, so I think it's just in the innovation phase, and then it'll go to the early adopters, and then to mass adoption, and then yeah. So I think it's just at the innovation phase, and we're just getting there, like in terms of like how blockchain is going to be used by different industries, and they're calling it Web.
Okay,
Web
and what do you think?
Yep.
Okay, okay. And what do you think? I mean, where does Bitcoin stand? I mean, Bitcoin or the other famous coins.
Yep.
Where do they stand right now? I mean, is the penetration like almost say around about 30-40% across the world? I mean, or is it much lower than that? Like, is it still in the innovators phase or whatever?
I feel it is still in the innovators phase. I mean, there's like lots of big talk about Bitcoin, like yeah, but I feel like in terms of the people holding it, I say like there would be a major chunk of people that are holding Bitcoins have been like the guys who've been holding it for the last 5 to 10 years. There's not like, even like
Wow.
for me, if I look around, like if I speak to someone about like stuff like this, just here like just around like in a friend circle or in a work environment situation, there's barely anyone really familiar with Bitcoin. I'm guessing they know, obviously they know what it is, but there's barely few people that have invested in it or like look at investing in it. But I feel like within the next 5 years all that's going to change. I feel everyone's going to be talking about it and everyone is going to be getting onto it. But in saying that, like lots of
Yeah, because you know what I mean. I mean, equity markets are kind of penetrated. They are kind of very mature right now.
Right.
So expecting that kind of a return, or say like another two times or 3 times, 4 times, it's kind of a little difficult at this level. But it's not the case in altcoins and Bitcoin right now, because I mean, saying that you're like you said that it's very under penetrated right now. I mean, I see like a massive upside, coming on from these investments.
Yeah.
So I guess my next thing is to kind of just find a way to work towards it and have some exposure to these assets.
Right. So I think in my very first podcast that I recorded, I was talking to a friend in Bombay, and basically it was me giving him like a whole bunch of tips on how he can secure, like how he should go about buying crypto, how he should go about securing his crypto once he's bought it. I think if you have the time, go over that. If you don't, reach out to me, we can go over it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but
Definitely,
yeah, but,
definitely, I'll check that out.
yeah, and basically, yeah, a major takeaway from there is like you need a pen and paper. You're going to secure your own stuff. You want your passwords down on your in a book, something, and you need to create your a completely new email address, and basically not with any of the traditional providers like Gmail or Hotmail or something like that. You want to look for something more secure. There's a Switzerland-based email called Proton Mail. It's pretty secure. You want to create something there. You don't want your name associated with it. You could create like a random name, pretty long, really long passwords. And then when you're having these soft wallets come, they always, of course, they are password protected, but they also come, like, say you're going to lose your phone, then what happens? So these soft wallets come with they're called word phrase, like they come with a bunch of 12 or 24 words. So if you lose your phone, you take another phone, put those 24 words that you've stored in your pen and paper, like where you've jotted down on a pen and paper, and then your wallet is refreshed on your new device. So those 12 to 14 words, 12 to 24 words acts like a security measure when you lose your phone or when you lose your device or something like that. Also, yeah, just going back to the point of like how many people have adopted it and like adopting it. What I heard, like, which was pretty interesting, is like the people that don't have access to the traditional forms of investments, those are the ones who are the first to adopt like these alternative forms, which are more easy to adopt, or which are easier to adopt. So that's why like third world countries, like some of the South American countries, some of the African countries are like the people from those countries are actually pretty big in investing in crypto already. Yeah, though their investments may not be like as like really like big amounts, but they are already investing in these cryptocurrencies. Like Bhutan, the country Bhutan, like they are in talks of creating their own digital currency. They are partnering with one of the crypto firms like called XRP or Ripple. If you've heard of them, they are a US-based
Ripple.
company.
Yeah.
So Ripple is partnering. I mean, the Bhutan government is working with Ripple to create their own digital currency. Pretty sure China is going to be creating their own digital currency. That's why they are putting all these blocks on other forms of currency. The American government,
I guess even India is, because
India is
that's
as
what
well. India
that's
is
what I had heard.
Right.
Yeah.
India is as well, but that just like it just makes it. I mean, what would happen is it just make it easier for people with like having an alternative currency. It's like how you speak about hedging when something is like when Bitcoin gets risky. What you do is like, it'd be easier for you to, instead of converting it into INR in a bank account, it would be easier to convert into the country's digital currency.
Digital currency,
yeah,
correct.
it would be less of a
Got your
transaction fee, less time to go about doing that. Yeah.
Correct.
So yeah, I'm excited to see like countries coming up with their own digital currencies. But in terms of investing, I think you can't go wrong with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. Yeah, those three. Those are the top three actually. But in terms of like the riskier one, like not riskier ones, but in terms of like the other ones, there's Zilliqa, Theta, the Singularity Net, and there's a few other. Dogecoin is another one. Elon Musk had spoken about it, and then that one shot.
Correct.
Yeah, that one. I'll tell you a funny story. I was never big on Dogecoin. It was because it was created as a meme coin, if you know about that, right? Like it was created as a joke.
Yeah, correct.
And it was created like, so currencies have different applications. So like there were cryptocurrency have different applications. Like Ethereum, as I said, is a platform. Bitcoin, Doge are created as a currency. Then there are created there's some created for games, and some created for artificial intelligence, and some created for energy, and like blah blah blah. So Doge was created as a currency, just as a meme. I purchased some long ago, and not much, like a really irrelevant amount, but just as a meme, I purchased something. And then all of this thing. Then I've been looking at the news. Oh, Doge has shot up. Doge has shot up. I was not even familiar like to what it shot up. I put it, and as I was talking about cold storage wallets. Yeah, so these are not connected to the internet. I had stored my Doge onto that, just cause I knew I'm not going to be
Oh,
like looking at
Okay.
trading that, or like looking at like I just brought it and I said I'm just going to leave it. Let's see what happens. I go back to it once like there was big hype about Doge, which happened I think about 4-5 months ago. I look at it. It had, I'm not kidding. It had 900. It had increased 990%.
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah, that's like close to 1000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It dropped. Yeah,
10
it dropped
times,
down. It dropped down to. It dropped down to. I think now it's around 700-800. But yeah,
Massive. Massive. Thick gains.
yes, yeah. So yeah, I think you should really like if you have the time, look into the space. Probably look at like at least like get started somewhere. I can suggest a good soft wallet. There's Exodus and Atomic Wallet. You could look at buying some amounts, and depending on what, if you're looking at altcoins, look at Zilliqa, Cardano. You can stake some of it, just leave it there, just for holding that little amount. You're getting returns for just holding it as well. So yeah.
Correct. Correct. Wow.
So yeah, Joachim, this has been a good chat.
Yeah, man, it's been a good chat. I mean, it's good to kind of get perspective
Right.
from a crypto hardo. I mean, obviously, I gave you my two two coins on what equity investing is, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's the way forward. Like I mean, this whole new age, technology coming in and swapping everything up. I guess crypto is the way to go, and not only crypto. I mean, there are all these alt asset classes that are coming up, and sooner or later, investors will obviously find a way to take exposure to them, and you don't want to be the last one there.
Exactly,
So
exactly. Also, what I heard is like there's like obviously the institutional. So we call like in the crypto space, I call like institutional investors are yet to come in the crypto space. It's for now people that are investing. Institutions are yet to come in, but
no, actually, institutionals have started coming in because lately I've heard there's this new ETF that has come out on crypto,
Right.
which has kind of got a good amount of traction. Yeah, it's in the US, it's not anywhere else.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, investors are kind of putting in money in that, and so that's like a passive way of investing. But I mean, pretty sure a lot of these ETFs will be coming back, and as and when ETFs come up in these, I will definitely have to track them because
Right.
that's also a part of my game. So I do track a lot of these ETFs and how money flows into them, and so basically once the ETF starts coming in, this cycle will even get much better and richer, and you'll see Bitcoin rallying forward. So definitely it's still underpenetrated from the ETF angle or
Right.
the indices angle. So
Exactly,
there,
yeah.
there could be a good trajectory going forward.
Yeah, and look, so what I was saying, getting to is they are waiting for the regulators to give like a clear picture of like where do they stand in terms of investing in crypto, and once there's like a clear picture from the, like in the US it's the SEC that they are waiting on to give a clear picture. Once there's like a clear
Correct.
picture for the US based companies, they are soon to start investing, like openly investing. I'm pretty sure they are investing now, but they're not like announcing it openly. I mean, Tesla is one of the few companies that say they hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Correct.
MicroStrategy, but MicroStrategy is like,
No.
it's a US based company. I think they are into like digital, do something on the technology side, but they've just basically changed to a crypto investment company. I'm not only not crypto
Oh,
investment company,
wow.
rather a Bitcoin investment company. And that single firm, during the pandemic, he borrowed some million from the, like, he borrowed like a chunk from the US government as a financial, I mean something as like a borrowing, basically a government borrowing that he did, or a bank borrowing, but he invested the whole chunk into Bitcoin. I think that firm itself, let me pull it up on my phone, let's see, I'll give you like how much, because he's pretty open
Yeah,
about
it's I can see it. It's some business intelligence company,
can you
but
check-
definitely they would
can
be.
you check how much Bitcoin he owns, or how much Bitcoin they own rather. Okay, there he owns 5.3 billion in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
5.3 billion USD. So
3,900 coins.
yes, yes.
Fuck, that's the third. Oh wow, shit.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
massive.
yeah. So he's like a really.
So why don't you just buy the stock?
Yeah, so that's what
It's
people are
listed
doing.
on Nasdaq also. So
Right. So that's what people are doing, like buying, like, so, and he says it like, if you own MicroStrategy stock indirectly, it means that you own Bitcoin.
yeah, correct.
Yeah, and you should probably check out like his
Wow.
views. Yeah, watch a small YouTube video of the CEO of this company. His name's Michael Saylor. See his views. I remember, like, I think about 6 months back, he was like telling people, mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin. Which is not good financial, which is not good financial advice, I think. But yeah, he's like really like big onto it. He's like, he said like, okay, like he gave an example like, okay, if I'm gonna borrow 1 million from the government, or you're going to borrow 1 million for the government, and we're going to use it like as an investment in bonds or gold, we could have returns of 5% or 10%
Correct.
or something like that. Yeah, invested in
Yeah,
equity, maybe you're going to have a
exactly.
20% return. You could invest it in real estate
Yeah.
or property, and you're going to have some return, and you're going to have that like in the long run. But what comes with all these things, the other risk that comes with all of this is, say the company can go bankrupt, something could happen to the government, and like that could go abrupt. Something could happen like to the entire
Correct.
economy of a country, and then your bonds could go.
Yeah, I mean, there's
this-
always
yeah,
a case of hyperinflation and all
Right.
that. It just erodes the value.
And in terms of real estate, like the government can one day turn around and seize your property. Like, not saying that happens all the time, but yeah, that's a risk. But he's saying in terms of investing in Bitcoin, no one can really touch your investment. So that's his views on it, and like why
Correct.
people should be investing and like in that instead of investing in property or investing in any other assets. So that's how he got like really into it, and like yeah, he's been, every time there's a big price drop in Bitcoin, this guy is going to be announcing, oh, I bought like 100 more coins. Oh, I bought like another 500 more coins or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder where he's getting the funding from. I mean,
So there's lots of fun. Like there's
Probably
like
track that.
he's issuing bonds. Yeah.
oh
issue-
shit.
Yeah. So and he had, as I said, he had borrowed some from the banks as well. I think he's borrowed it, invested it. He's made that return. I think within few months, paid off the loan. Yeah. I know another friend of mine as well. Like instead of like, he wanted to get into it. He borrowed some amount from the like as a what do you call it, a risk free, like the small, I can't remember what's the loan term. I should be remembering this. I used to work in a bank, but yeah, basically a personal loan. Yeah, he took a personal loan, and he
Okay.
brought cryptocurrency.
Okay.
He bought crypto. He was able to pay that personal loan back in 5 months, and he still invested. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah.
shit. Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, Joachim, good talk. We'll talk again soon. Yeah. And surely, like,
Yeah, Merrick.
Yeah, we'll chat about this,
Definitely.
and like, yeah, hoping
It
to
was
see
some
you,
great
like,
catch up.
Yeah, hoping to like hear more once the what is it called, EFTs? Once you're working on EFTs, right?
ETFs.
ETFs. Okay.
ETFs.
What's the full form?
Exchange traded funds.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Those are like
Exchange traded funds. Yeah.
Right. Well, they are basically like
Those are like mutual funds,
Yeah,
but
just gonna
but
yeah.
they're like a mutual fund.
Yeah,
But the thing is, they are not really manned by a manager.
Okay.
They are directly linked to this index that they kind of track or follow,
Okay.
and then they buy whatever the index buys. So there are these companies like there's this MSCI, there is S&P Globals. They make their own indices, and then
Understood.
these funds track these indices, and then they make money over that. So
Okay.
that's ETFs.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Goldman's and BlackRock have announced, I think something like that. Like they are going to be,
Yeah.
like they are offering
Correct.
financial and institutional
Exposure,
investors. Yeah,
correct.
institutional investors can this thing. There's a big company, I can't remember. I think it's Grayscale. Have you heard of Grayscale?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, so Grayscale has been like one of the early ones in terms of introducing like options for institutional investors in crypto. Yeah.
Correct.
What do you have planned for the weekend now?
Nothing, man. I mean, I'm just chilling. The thing is, my weekends, like I just kind of sleep because
Okay,
I
yeah.
hardly catch any sleep during the
right,
week.
right. Yep.
So it's just doing nothing, just getting your mind at rest and recuperating from the week.
Right,
Because
right.
next week is like would be like a very exhausting week for me because it's the monthly expiry, the F&O expiry, and that week is a havoc because we have a lot like immense. We have like some 40-50% of the flow of the month coming in that whole week. So
Okay.
it's
Oh,
kind
wow.
of very tiring for
Right,
us.
right. And then the start of the month is busy as well.
Not so much. It's a little busier on the idea generation point of view.
Okay.
The end of the month is more busier on the flow point of view.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so that's how it's kind of panned.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyways, Joachim, I'll leave you to it. You can catch up to your sleep and like your rest over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Yeah. Message me, if you need like any other, like if you need some
Sure,
help in
Merrick.
that,
We
I'll
will
be
catch
there.
up soon. Probably meet someday. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let's see how that goes. Let's see when I'm able to travel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At the moment, I mean, we are still in a lockdown. I can only travel within 10 kilometers. Yeah. Cool.
Oh.
We talk soon, yeah, Joachim? I'm gonna end this. Yeah.
Cool. See you, man.
See you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. See you in the next one.